You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of Global Trade This Week. I think it's edition 138. We'll double check that one. But anyway, my name is Doug Draper. I'm one of your hosts, and my good pal, my good friend, Mr. Pete Mento is coming to us from the wonderful state of Arizona. Pete, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, buddy. Good morning, Doug. It's nice to be back. I'm out here doing some client site work, and I'm melting. I'm melting, Doug. It's like the opposite of when I lived in Minnesota. In the wintertime in Minnesota, I would go from heated place. I would never be outside. I would avoid it at all costs. And now it's 113 degrees in Phoenix, and I run to the car, which is hysterical to watch, I'm sure, where the AC is on. And then I run inside, and then I run back in the car, and then I run back to the hotel 9 hours later. So I'm doing everything I can to avoid the sun right now. I'm like a vampire.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're a perfect candidate for the mission to Mars, because that's what you would be, is just inside 24/7.
Doug, I'd go. If they'd have me, I'd go.
That's a whole nother podcast, and I know that we have to hammer this one out today. So let's just get into it. Pete, fire us away with your first topic.
So in typical Doug Draper fashion, Doug Draper was right again. We have another instance of a major transportation company, making a move with one of its internal financial assets to, quote unquote, this is the quote, focus on our core business. So C.H. Robinson has recently sold off part of their business in Europe. I don't know much about the sale. It's a company called EST, or a portion of its business called EST, to a German company. And it said right there, because, we need to focus on our core, focus on what we do, what made us all this money, which was truck brokerage, and really take our eyes off of all these other distractions and get back to doing what it is that made us famous. So Doug, you said this end of last year. It was one of your predictions, and it just keeps happening. We keep seeing it over and over again in the business. These big players who are saying we got to get back to what made us who we are. And this won't be the last one. I mean, it's July, right? There's going to be more of it. It's a shocking financial environment right now for transportation companies, many of whom who've overinvested with money or during the COVID pandemic. So, Doug, if we were in kindergarten, you'd be getting a gold star on your forehead before you went home today for pulling it off again. But this trend, like I said, Doug, I think it's just going to keep on going.
Yeah. And quick comment on that is it's all related, I think, to the COVID backlash, right? And to take a comment from a favorite podcaster I listen to, it was all cocaine and champagne during COVID. Our industry was crushing it. Money was chasing us. People were investing and just saying, what's next? What's next? What's next? And we realized that the party was over, and struck midnight, and it took a couple of years to resettle, regauge, and you're seeing customers, pull back in. What's the C-suite doing? What are the board of directors doing? And let's just cut this thing down to the bones.
I'm not going to let you just walk right past that. What podcast do you listen to? What podcast do you listen to that says it's all, what was it, cocaine and champagne? Who says that?
Yeah, there's a podcast. I would encourage you to check it out. It's called Prof G, like Professor G. It's Scott Galloway. I don't know if you've seen him. He's on some shows time and again, but it is hilarious. I personally think he's got great takes. A little over the top now and again, but that's good. So Prof G, Scott Galloway, he says that often in his podcast.
That just sounds like something Ric Flair would have said in one of his, pre-match videos. But it is true, man. I mean, the money was flowing like a mighty river, and people made some wacky decisions. So it's coming back to haunt them now.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right, well, we'll keep this thing moving. Mine's financial related as well. I know you're familiar, and I would assume everybody on our listeners engage is Lineage Logistics, cold storage. They just did an IPO last week and raised $4.4 billion, which kicked their company valuation over to $18 billion. Couple of things. One, it's the largest IPO regardless of industry in 2024. And they're saying, meaning pundits, that this could kickstart, not specific to our industry, just in general, that large level IPOs may be making a comeback. This is a little bit like, in the financial realm, things that we just spoke about. But here's the crazy thing is that a couple of bankers from Morgan Stanley back in 2018 bought one warehouse in Seattle, Washington, and said, let's try to grow this thing. And they've made 116 acquisitions. They just went out and bought all these mom and pop cold storage locations. Specifically in Denver, there was a company called Oneida Cold Storage, which was a perfect target market for them, rebranded Lineage and everything else. So 20 countries, like 480 warehouses. It's crazy. They said they have 2.8 billion cubic feet, and that's the unit of measure a lot of cold storage facilities use. It's kind of the standard. And according to ChatGPT, Pete, this is not Doug Draper math. This is robot math. That equates to about 45 million pallet positions. I'm just using the standard pallet. So anyway, I think it's going to set the stage for a lot of crazy IPOs. It caught my attention. It was kind of cool because our industry made front page news related to this IPO. It was big. It's what they expected. And we could see more in multiple industries as things progress this year. What's your take on IPOs?
Well, first off, Doug, cold storage is where it's at, man. I mean, the insight, right? Somebody had the insight to realize what many of us know. It's hard to find. It's very hard to find because it's not cheap to operate. But when you have it, man, it flies off the shelves. It's like a Taylor Swift album. People love it. And when you have a network like that, you can go to some pretty big companies and you can provide them some pretty amazing services. So, tip of the cap to a bunch of bankers who saw that in our industry and realized that no one had really consolidated that need. So there's that. And then with the IPOs, man, you love to hear it, Doug. You love to hear. Now, see, I wish it was like a bunch of freight guys that did it, but it's a bunch of bankers, right? But you love to hear that our business is still cracking new ground, still coming up with ways because that a bunch of people probably had pre-IPO stock and just made a lot of money in our business. And, I'm competitive. We all know that. I have my firms that I don't play nice with in this business, but I want everyone to do well personally, financially. And I love that this is, there's probably some person that was working there. This might've been their first job and they really crushed it. And they're out, shopping for Lambos, Doug. So it's just, I love to hear it. You love to hear it.
Yeah.
And I do believe that you're going to see. Go ahead, Doug. What?
No. I was going to make some stupid comment. So you finish and then I'll make my my comment.
You also love to see that the street is investing in, I don't want to call it novel, but they're investing in sort of, I guess, these new pathways that we're seeing in the business, whether it's technology, whether it's, consolidated cold storage. It's just nice to see. So I hope it continues. It's been a wacky year for us in this business with volume issues and things going on around the world with conflicts. But this is, going back to Doug again in the first one, this is a core business that is never going to go out of style. And they have done an excellent job of giving the market what they wanted, which was something relatively novel in our space, something that size. I don't know much about their operations, but I hear good things. So it's just nice to see that it happened, Doug.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see when you're out running from hotel to car. The warehouse industry is exploding down in Phoenix, and I know that there's a lot of cold storage places are popping up down there, which is just completely counterintuitive. But anyway, cool. Well, it takes us to halftime. What? Go ahead.
Well, before you get to halftime, I've got to say, right. So this area has become this hotbed for technology, particularly semiconductors, and the size and scope of these places and the money that it costs to invest in it is incredible. And to the credit of Arizona, they've done everything they can to make it a friendly environment for business here, particularly business that's going to have long-term implications on creating technology jobs. So you're just seeing them pop up everywhere. And our business here is absurd. It's huge. We're all over the place down here. We're just building a new facility, actually. So it's another place where I think you're going to see a lot more investment in our business. And if you're a young person in freight and you're looking for the right place to move, I think I'd pick Phoenix right now. As much as I don't want to live here, I think I'd pick Phoenix.
Yeah. Good. Good advice there, my friend. So, so we're buzzing through this one. So, Halftime, brought to us by Cap Logistics. They help make this show possible every single week in and out, and we appreciate that. So, Pete, what's up? What do you got for Halftime?
Doug, before I get to I just want to ask, do you remember when you and the fair Mrs. Draper decided to join yourselves in holy matrimony? What the budget was for your wedding?
It was pretty small. I mean, to answer your question, I think we spent 10 grand, right? We got a few kickers, whatever, a dinner, call it 15 grand all in back in 1992 or
right.
What? Holy crap. No, 1999. Anyway, Doug, I know when my anniversary date is, Pete. I'm just saying.
You just don't know how many years. Yeah, way to go, Doug. My ex-wife and I got married in 2001, right before 9/11. We had a relatively big wedding, but we got to do it on a family home. My ex-father-in-law had beautiful gardens where he lived. And we probably spent around 25 grand. And at the time, that was a considerable amount of money for me to lay down on a party for mostly people I didn't know.
Yeah.
But the prize for all-time silliness in weddings is going to a couple in India who spent $600 million on a 3-day wedding in India. Now, they flew most of the people out. They put most of the people up. It was a massive wedding, right? Put them up in hotels. If you have a chance to look at the pictures, the gowns that the bride wore are incredible. And I guess they were handmade and hand-beaded. But they also paid to have celebrities join them. So Kim Kardashian and Khloe Kardashian, I think, got a little check to show up and dance with everyone on the dance floor and have a couple drinks at your wedding. But $600 million. So I've told my daughter many, many times, if you just go to the courthouse and knock it out, I'll give you the money you would have spent on a house, because that's an investment in your future.
Yeah.
Getting everybody else loaded so you can be a princess for a day is a pretty ridiculous way to spend a bunch of money. Yeah. So I don't know, Doug, are you in or out on the idea of an incredibly over-the-top lavish wedding?
100% out. I'm with you, right? I mean, what's 100%? I mean, we could go down for 5 minutes about the nonsense that is. So wedding, matrimony.
We sound like a couple of people men right now, Doug.
Yeah.
We, like guys that go to Denny's for the $2 breakfast. That's what we sound like right now.
Yeah.
But I believe that. I feel that. I'm with you, buddy. Like, why would you spend all that money? Yeah. You know what I could do with $600 million, man? You have any idea?
It would be dangerous. One thing for sure. So, anyway.
And Doug, how rich is her father? And she's like, Daddy, I want to have it. He's like, oh, of course, sweetheart. Yes. Spare no expense.
What do you know what his how he made his riches, or what the guy does, or what he? Let me rephrase it. How many things does he own? Because he doesn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
That's
Doug, I was so disgusted with this story that reading it like filled me with rage. So I didn't pay attention to a lot of the details. I had to stop reading it.
Yeah, great. Well, before we get off matrimony, I want all of our audience to know that I know exactly the date that I was married. It was July 24th, 1999, and we just celebrated our 25th. So there. All right, good.
Congratulations, buddy.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I happened to be in the great city of Fresno, California on our date, but we celebrated this past weekend. Anyway, speaking of celebrities, man, this one is sweet. I don't know if you've seen, first of all, I love the Olympics. Every night I sit down and watch it. I know that it's 8 hours late and I've already seen kind of the results, but I love watching the Olympics. One thing that popped up was Flavor Flav from Public Enemy is sponsoring the women's water polo team. Apparently that they're financing, I don't know the details, but they've lost some financing. They had to do a lot of this from bootstrapping, and a lot of their players were literally getting second jobs in order to pay for it. So Flavor Flav came in. I don't know how much money's thrown out there, but the women's water polo team, 3-time gold medalists, they're potentially on track to win their fourth. And Flavor Flav, how unlikely and unusual of a support mechanism is that? But if you've seen any of the pictures, he's got his clock around his neck, classic Flavor Flav, posing in front of the team, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So my question to you is, if you had to sponsor an Olympic team, and you were, the Indian you just made mention, and you had unlimited cash to support, what team, summer or winter, would you support and sponsor?
100%, no question about it. And this will come as a bit of a shock. I would give as much money as I possibly could to the U.S. women's rugby sevens team. They medaled yesterday. They ended up taking the bronze in a stunning upset of Australia. It was an incredible game. They won in the final seconds. And these women are not only amazing athletes, they're incredible personalities. So each and every one of them have TikTok channels, I guess, and they do videos on the Instagram and the bookie faces and all the rest of it, right? And they're phenomenally entertaining, not only to watch on the pitch, but also in their personal lives. I think I'd make money, on that, but also because of my love of the sport. So I am so proud of the women's rugby team for doing what many people thought was unthinkable. And the next time we come to the Olympics, Doug, we're coming for that gold. We are going to whip New Zealand's ass. We are going to whip South Africa's ass, and we are going to take the gold medal, because in 4 years, the attention and the money and the athletes are just going to get better. You're going to see this entire team back in 4 years, pissed off, looking for that number one spot. Now, regarding Flavor Flav, bud, I love Public Enemy. I've seen them many, many times. And the idea that Flavor Flav with his Viking helmet on and his, giant clock and somewhere in Paris right now, I'm all in, buddy. The more absurd you can make it, the better. And also, we love the Olympics. You have a daughter who was an incredible athlete in college, and she rode at the highest level. That's not a sport that most people, tune in on the Ocho for, right? Like, they don't see it. Rugby for me, rugby, you don't see a lot of it, but to get to watch people row, to get them to watch swimming. It's the only time I ever watch swimming. It's the only time I ever watch archery. It's cool that for a couple of weeks a year, I get to see the best of the best in the world compete in something that they truly love. And I love that, Doug. So all the silliness, I'm in for it. Snoop Dogg, stoned out of his mind, making commentary, I'm in for it. Yeah, just give me more.
Yeah. Is it? I think
what would you do, Doug? What would your sport be? You're going to say,
yeah, I grew up swimming. My kids swam as well, but they don't need my help, right? I would go to some kind of lower, even some niche sport that you and I didn't even know existed, right? I think the whole winter curling. Remember how that was just the hype last year, or the Winter Olympics with curling? Yeah. The thing, it's like the funny thing is, like, I would sponsor it. I would start smoking just because of it. I'd sit behind the athletes, quote unquote, just far enough out of, in blurred a little bit, with a cooler of beer, some donuts, and a pack of cigarettes. And it would be like, who's that guy back there? Who is that? What is he doing? And I would just start throwing ones, because that's about all I could get would be $1 bills. But that is such an unusual and unique sport that just caught a wave at the last Olympics that it would be fun. So anyway, that would be the one, men or women's. I don't even know if there's a women's curling or not, Pete. I'll have to figure out when my sponsorship
kicks in. And there's also, they also play mixed games where, half and half women, half men. So you could do that too. Doug, that is a brilliant idea. I think that we at Global Trade this week should reach out to the American curling team and see if maybe, what would it cost us to maybe get our logo on their brooms or something. I think that's not a bad idea at all. Curling is fascinating because many overweight, middle-aged, balding, gray American men like me would watch it and say, I could do this. Like, this is a sport I can pull off. If you want to see how wrong you are, go watch the videos on YouTube of all these celebrities that hung out with the curling teams and they gave them a shot at it, and just how god awful. It takes a lot of hard work to get good at curling. So But I think that's why a lot of folks looked at it and said, I could do this. No, dude, you can't. Yeah. You can't do it. It's super hard. So, Doug, we got U.S. Olympic Committee. If you're probably listening, because who doesn't listen to this show? Hit us up. Doug and I will be more than happy to stroke you a check for what, $20-$30, Doug, you think? Maybe?
Yeah.
Between
easily.
us?
Yeah.
I'll throw in a 10, you throw in a 10. Maybe Keenan can throw in 10, right? And then we'll get our sticker on the broom.
I love it. Yeah, we got a couple years to plan. So it'll be good. Well, that was halftime, brought to you by Cap Logistics. We appreciate their support. So we're heading in the second half of the show here, Pete. I introed, so you go first on the second one, right? Yeah, you go.
I go first. So last week, the World Trade Organization came out with their codified rules for e-commerce. They've spent all this time working on it. There were dozens and dozens of nations involved. They're slapping each other on the back. What a great job. And the news reports came out. The world has decided on these e-commerce guidelines, except the United States. We did not sign off on it. We said that it wasn't good enough. It doesn't get deep enough into requirements about trade, public health, and human safety. And not only did we not sign it, Doug, we were very vocal in our displeasure with the way that it went out. So it's like the rest of the world all got together and said, wow, great job, everyone. Group hug, kumbaya. We were like, nope, taking the kickball and I'm going home. Not me, baby. The biggest market in the world wants to see this changed. And I think, Doug, it's going to take a long time for us to sign on to anything about e-commerce. Yeah.
It's such a powerful force in our economy, right? I don't even know if it's politically motivated on that topic, but it's funny what you just said. Just like, yeah, it's a big deal for us. We talk about it a lot, but yet we're not going to agree to anything. So interesting. So, yeah.
Don't care.
Good take. Well, I'm going to bring us home on a similar topic, and I want to give a shout out to two of my friends that brought this to my attention. Not directly, but they speak about it a lot. Mike Regan with Transact and Jerry Hempstead, who I originally met when I was a young tyke getting in this industry with Airborne Express. Both of them are masters in parcel analysis. So I want to give a shout out to both of those friends of mine. But the topic was peak season surcharges. So in the fall, you have back to school, then you have the leaves falling and the nights get cooler, and parcel carriers come out with their peak season surcharges. This one is a classic example of data-driven UPS just analyzing the hell out of it and confusing the rest of us, right? So I'm not getting into the weeds of it, and I'm not bad-mouthing UPS because much like C.H. Robinson and much like that we spoke on, they're shedding business that is distracting, and they're focusing, laser-focused on their core business, which is parcel movement. You've seen that with their contract with USPS. But the gist of it is these peak season charges, Pete, start in September 29th, and they do not end until January 18th. And in that window, there's 3 different tiers between all of their service levels. If you look at it, starting in the 29th of September, a lot of those peak seasons has to do with imports. And then during, it gets closer to the holidays, it obviously has to do with domestic residential deliveries, right? But here's some of the charges. There's a peak season surcharge. There's a demand surcharge. There's an additional handling fee surcharge. There's a large package surcharge, and there's an over maximum limits surcharge. And it's all based on how much volume your rolling average since October, I think, of 2023. And if you ship X number of parcels and you need an abacus to figure all this stuff out, Pete. So it's complicated, and it's a long period of time. So if you handle parcel, whether you use it to import your business, your products and your commodities, or whether you're just hounding it in during the true peak season between Thanksgiving and Christmas and the end of the year, be aware, get a plan B. I think you're going to see a lot of people going to alternative carriers. People are going to go, hey, FedEx, I use UPS. I don't understand this. I want to come on board. Wait, because FedEx is going to come out with theirs shortly, and it'll be it'll be interesting. And the last thing on this, Pete, I didn't realize, but Thanksgiving is, it's the fourth Thursday of the month. Well, this year it's like the 28th of November. So if you look at number of days between Black Friday and Christmas, that window is super condensed, which I think is also part of why they're getting aggressive on the surcharges. They have less days to handle probably the most shipments they've ever handled in that time period in the history of the world. So anyway, it's peak season. It's really long. It's really complicated. There's nothing wrong with that. UPS is a data-driven organization. But if you're a parcel guru and your company uses it, you better start checking it out and analyzing, because it's going to be a different animal this year.
Doug, all I can picture is a room full of lab coat wearing guys, that suffered wedgies through most of middle school. Big, thick bottle glasses, and they've got their piece of like, oh, well, I believe if we do it at 2:14 on the 19th of November, they're, and then someone at corporate is like, I'm telling you, the nerds are really good. The nerds are saying, that's how it happened. Is there was probably a bunch of former McKinsey consultants sitting down there ripping this thing out. But yeah, Doug, it's preposterous, but it's how it is.
Yeah.
And with that, my friend, we're going to bring it to a close. Unfortunately, it's a quick episode this week, but we want to thank all of you for watching and listening. We want to thank our friends at Cap Logistics for continuing to support us week after week. We urge you all to check them out at caplogistics.com. And if it's happening in global trade, we'll talk about it next week on Global Trade This Week. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Doug.
All right. See you, Pete.